I am back bundled up, and the reason is because it is dropping down to 2 degrees where I am tonight. So it's amazing what 4 days can bring you, because I was in Londonderry, Pennsylvania the last time I did one of these updates. And the next morning, I got up early. This is only like 3 days ago, 4 days ago, whatever it was. The next day I got up early and I drove to my location in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. And they were on the ball. I went in there with my paperwork, and he actually gave me a really weird look. He just kind of was puzzled, and he said he hadn't received a lot of ETAs lately because he has, what is it, NFI, I believe is the company that does a lot of pickups for pods. And he says, yeah, they don't do ETAs. They just kind of show up when they show up. So he kind of gave me a weird look, and he said, I don't remember seeing anything on there. I said, well, I'm with Schneider. And he said, oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. I did remember seeing an ETA at 6 a.m. So he looked at it and he said, yep, you actually sent one in. That's when he told me the thing about the ETAs. He had me, he had the pod taken off, and then I went on to Cinnaminson, New Jersey. That was on a Saturday. So it was early. I got through Philadelphia and went over the Betsy Ross, can't remember which, bridge into like only a few miles away from Cinnaminson. And then I did my drop at that location. And I got there probably just after 7 a.m. Did my drop, and I had no pre-assignment, which was very disappointing. So I let them know I let my DTL team know that I was available. Basically just hung out. I have a friend who lives in the area, so I went and hung out with him and spent time with him and his family. But I had a choice when I finally got pre-assigned about 3 or 4 hours later. So it was, I think, around 10 a.m. and I got a pre-assignment. At that point, I think I had about 32 hours left if memory serves, something like that. And I looked at it and said to myself, I was telling myself that if I got an assignment where it was within like a day's drive to my location, I might as well go ahead and reset now, because I have home time scheduled for Friday. Now, if I have like 12 hours left, the DTLs will say, we don't recommend you to go ahead and shut down and reset. But the way I look at it is, they're home on the weekends. If I'm only like a 9-hour drive away from where I'm going, then, or like up to 11, one day, then I should go ahead and reset. That way I can start early in the morning on Monday with a full amount of hours. So I was waiting for a job, and I got through pre-assignment, starting in Cinnaminson, New Jersey, stopping in Concord, North Carolina, and then ending in Atlanta, Georgia. And I said, well, I have zero chance, because it's a Saturday, and pods are not open on Sunday, and they close at 3. So I had zero chance of picking up in Cinnaminson and getting down to Concord to do my drop. Another thing to keep in mind about that was that my the job was a cannot pick up before 1:00 p.m. So I was like, all right, well, I guess that means that the pod was going to be arriving from someplace across the country. So I basically hung out with my friend and his family, and then he dropped me off at the truck stop, and I went and got the pods. But although it was just down the street from the pilot that I was shut down at, I got there and they said, yeah, one of your 4 pods hasn't arrived yet. It should be arriving within about 90 minutes. I'm like, great. Because it said show up between 12 and 1 to pick up this order. And so I waited around until about 2:15 when it finally showed up. It showed up, I threw straps, and by the time I got out of there, went back to the pilot and did my post trip, it was right at 3. It was right at 3 o'clock. So that means that I had a choice to make. I could go ahead and drive down to Charlotte, or I could do my reset there. Well, considering that I have a friend that I've been hanging out with, and I've been wanting to actually hang out with him for an extended period of time, I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do my 10 hours plus 24 and do my shutdown here. That means I cannot leave before, it was 1:02 a.m. on that Monday morning. So I set my ETA for, what time was it? I set my ETA for 9 a.m. in Concord, and I later changed it to 11. And then I set my time the next day in Atlanta at 6 a.m. Now you may say, but Alan, why did you go ahead and reset again? I'll tell you exactly why. Because if I didn't reset and I went ahead and drove on down to Concord and just hung out, and I did on Monday morning, I did my drop at 6 a.m. in Concord, I could be in Atlanta by late morning, let's say 11 or noon. So if I'm in Atlanta at 11 or noon that same day, then I would only have about 20 some odd hours left. So if I was pre-assigned something and I could do 2 days out of it, then I would have to shut down on Wednesday. And then I'd have to be shut down from Wednesday until Thursday and then go home on Friday. That's a useless thing. That basically would put me down the entire week. So as soon as I would get there and I'd get back to the pod's location, they might not be able to send me out. They might say we can't send you out because there's no job that would actually get you back in time with a reset. Because, you know, if I'm and here's the thing, if they sent me, let's say 2 days away, I would have to do a reset before they're going to send me something else. They're not going to let me reset on the road. They only do that if you're doing a long haul across the country and it's going to take like a week or 9 days, something like that. That's when they'll be okay with you resetting on the road. So just analyzing everything, I said I should go ahead and reset. So I picked up in Cinnaminson and then shut down. Now the pilot that's there in Cinnaminson, it will give you 6 hours free, and then you have to pay for every 24 hours. So looking at it, I was like cringing because I was like, I'm going to have to pay for 2 days to do this reset. But I went to the lady and I said, at the counter, and I said, so I would be leaving at just after midnight on Monday. And she said, okay. And she only charged me for 1 day. And I'm like, really? Awesome. So I was happy. I got my little ticket. I went and put it on my window. I went and hung out with my friend, and I had him drop me off back at the truck around 9 p.m. So I would take a nap and then hit the road. Right as I'm about to go to bed, bang, bang, bang on the truck all the way up to the window. And, hey, what do you, are you staying or are you leaving? And I'm like, I'll be leaving at just after midnight, or just like 1 o'clock or something like that. I'll be leaving. I'll be doing my a little nap, and then I hit the road. And he said, okay, well, you need to pay for another day then. I'm like, I got myself all bundled up in the truck, and it was actually, the truck had turned itself, the Opti idle, it had turned itself on. So I quickly blast the heat, and it was not on long enough to actually build the heat up. It just started to come out when it shut down. So I went ahead and idled the truck for about 10 minutes. That way I got some heat, and I was like frustrated because here I am wanting to finally go to bed with the truck warm. And I got the truck warm, shut back down, and then I'm going to have to pay for another 24 hours just for 3 hours. I know why they give you 6 hours free, because it's not enough for you to do a full 10 hour. I get it. And I get it that it's a business. But at the same time, though, when I told the lady how long I was going to be there, I really would have preferred her to say it's 2 days as opposed to 1 day. I thought she was giving it to me because it was a little bit over 24 hours after the 6 hours. So I thought she was just going to say, oh yeah, here, go ahead. And because she put it in the system, but she probably just didn't do the math right. Whatever. I know it's a business and that kind of thing. So I said, okay, can you give me a couple extra hours? And the guy just kind of looked at me, and I looked around. And I said, notice the lot's open. And so he kind of looks around and he's like, okay. So he says, so what time? And I said, can you give me till midnight? He says 11. I'm like, oh, okay. Because still, I couldn't turn on the truck until 1:02 and log in. So I was already thinking, what in the world am I going to do for an hour if he can give me till midnight? So he said 11. I was like, crap. All right. So I went ahead and I got my jacket on and stuff like that, because at the time it was like 22 degrees, 24 degrees, something like that. And I went ahead and said, you know what, I'm going to have to go ahead and pay for another 24 hours. I hate it, but I'm going to have to do it. They at least take pilot points. So I jumped up, got everything going. I leave the truck, and as I'm walking by, I look at the guy, and I said, hey, are you sure you can't give me till midnight? You know, and he kind of looks at me. Okay. So I was like, awesome. So I went back, got in the truck, and went to sleep. Only for like 2.5 hours at this point. I set my alarm, and at midnight, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. Because if I needed to, I would go and buy another 24, but I really didn't want to do that. What I was prepared to do is go inside and buy some stuff. So I hung out there at the truck a little bit, waited, and he didn't come back. He didn't come out, probably because he'd already done his rounds. So I went inside, went to the restroom, brushed my teeth, because I realized that I'd forgotten to do that when I went to bed. It was only like 3 hours earlier. So I went back out to the truck, and I went ahead and did, I went ahead and stayed in the seat up there and just hung out. And I kept watching, and I was looking at the traffic and looking at, the road conditions and stuff like that. And he never came back out. So I was very, very grateful. So if he actually is watching this, I'm very grateful. And she gave me a couple of extra hours when the lot was not full. I'm very grateful of that. Props to Cinnamon's in New Jersey. And people may say, I don't like the fact that they charge for parking. I get it. Trust me, I don't like paying for it. I wish that that Pilot and Flying J had a deal with Schneider that if a Schneider driver was there and had to take a reserved parking spot, then we could bill it back to the company. Provided that, everything else is full, or something like that. But that's not the way it is. Schneider looks at it and says, well, you can write it off. I'm like, yeah, if you itemize your deductions, you can, sure, but not if you take a standard deduction. Anyway, so I ended up leaving. I did my pre-trip at 1:02. Got out of there in 20 minutes later, something like that, and I hit the road. And it was fairly uneventful. I mean, I got down there to Concord. I did the drop. Guy was there, took my one pod, 1 7-footer, and then I continued on to Gaffney, South Carolina, where I parked and shut down. And then the next morning, I got up early, and I was in Atlanta at 6 a.m. So that was Tuesday at 6 a.m. Now, when I got to Atlanta, the good thing to note here is in Gaffney, I got pre-assigned. Starting in Atlanta, ending in Atlanta, but it was picking up in Atlanta, dropping in Johnson City, Tennessee, and then driving and picking up in Knoxville, and then dropping off in Atlanta. So I looked at this and I said, you know what? If I'm dropping off in Atlanta, I'll pick up and I'll at least make it up to Johnson City and do the drop. And then I'll shut down for the night at a truck stop someplace. And then I will be in Knoxville at 6 a.m. I'll pick up there and then drive on back to Atlanta and shut down and do my drop. And then I'll go to the Schneider OC and then shut down. Hopefully I'll get another pre-assignment, because by then it would be Wednesday. Now, I knew there was a snowstorm coming into Tennessee. Didn't know how bad it was, though. So that next morning I got up, had a little bit of rain on the truck, got down there to Atlanta, dropped off my pods, picked up, and when the guy was handing me my paperwork, he says, by the way, Knoxville, Nashville, and Johnson City are shut down. I'm like, why? He says, yeah, they're closed today because the storm knocked them out. And I'm like, they're not going to go in delayed? just go in a few hours later or something like that? He said, nope, they're closed for the day. I'm like, great. So I was thinking, I'm going to at least get up there and see if Johnson City's open. On the notes for Johnson City, it says, must let us know, 5 hours in advance, your ETA, and give us a heads up as to when, give us an hour heads up because it's an unmanned warehouse. So I was like, great, okay, fine, I'll do that. I drove from Atlanta, uneventful until, and now here's the thing. The GPS, good old Jill, she was taking me across to over 285 in rush hour, up 85, fine, until I got to Greenville, South Carolina, and then take state back roads to Asheville, then jump on I-26 and go up to Johnson City. But I looked at my Google, and it added only like 9 miles if I stayed on the interstate the entire time. Up 75, over on 24, up on 26. Well, 24 to 40 to 26. If it's a bad snowstorm and everything is going to be bad road conditions and they're going to be de-icing and stuff like that and putting stuff down so that way for traction, I don't want to take a back road. They're going to work on the and concentrate on the interstates and less on the back roads. So to me, it was a no-brainer. Avoid that back interstate. So the GPS, it may look at traffic, but it doesn't do a very good job of planning out your routes. It seems to be sticking to interstate and interstate highways and state and U.S. highways. And if it can route you on one of those, it will. When I was leaving and going around, going through Maryland, the way that it used to take me with the old local nav GPS is it said just go straight through, go down through the bridge that goes underneath Baltimore and keep on going. This time, and last time I went down there south, it did the same exact thing. It was like, yep, go on straight, go through the Baltimore tunnel and then continue. This time, it wanted me to go around Baltimore on the Beltway. And so I ignored it and went on past until it got to the very last exit. What is it, Keith Road or something like that? The very last exit before the toll. And then it had me take that and go around the Beltway the other way. At that point, it was very obvious to me that it was just trying to avoid a toll. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit there and play that game when there's only 3 tolls that we're not allowed to drive according to the manual. The New Jersey Turnpike, the Florida Turnpike, and the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. You're okay with tolls? I'm going to go on through there the same as I've been doing the past 5 months. So I did. And it was fine. And I got down there, did my drop in Concord and shut down in Gaffney next morning. So here I am driving through Tennessee. And as I'm going 24 towards Knoxville, does the road start to show signs of being de-iced. We have sand all over the interstate. And it is just, you're driving through sand, you're driving through a little bit of ice here and there, not ice, but compacted snow, which is basically ice. And traffic slowed down to like 30 some odd miles an hour in parts. In some areas, it was totally clear. Now, here's one of the annoying things that you have to deal with when you're driving down the road and they're de-icing. The spray that picks up off the tires and sprays the solution into the air gets on your windshield. And because it is salt-based, it turns your windshield like white. You can still see through it, but it's annoying as crap. And because it is freezing temperatures outside, every time I hit the windshield wiper, which has a fluid in there that's supposed to stay liquid through to negative 20 degrees, it was like, I guess, frozen in the thing. It was not coming out because it was like, it got down to, I think, 12 degrees. So that was really annoying because all I wanted to do is just, go where I was going and have the windows clear. But no. I ended up stopping for a load securement check at a rest area, ran inside, ran to the restroom. When I came back out, I turned on the truck, and it didn't matter if I have the heat on full blast, which, by the way, means cracking your windows. So that way you don't melt. Kind of counteracts it a little bit. But right as I was about to take off again, I hit the windshield wiper fluid saying, you're not going to be there, so I'm going to have to clean this window. And what do you know? It started spraying again. I don't know why it wasn't spraying on the interstate, but it was spraying just fine after sitting there for all of 10 minutes, something like that. I was totally happy. So this time, as I'm driving down the interstate, I let it get a little bit on my window, then I spray it off. Get a little bit on the window, spray it off. A little bit on the window, spray it off. And I stopped when I got about 45 minutes away and texted the number and said, I'll be there in 1 hour. He said, we're closed for the day. So annoying. So annoying. But, I'm not going to change their mind or whatever. So I said, then I will be there tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. He said, okay, great, see you then. I said, do you need me to send you an hour advanced notice for that? He said, no, I'll be there first thing in the morning at 6. I'm like, all right, cool. So I have my alarm set for 4 a.m. I'm going to probably do my pre-trip around 4:30 a.m. and I'll head out of here by around 4:45 a.m. That way I can get there in the last 40 miles or so on the road. That'll give me a good hour and 15 minutes to get there. Hopefully, because I've been to this pod's location before, you have to pull in and then back all the way down to the very, very end. It's a long backup. And so you basically have to make sure it's clear. It's going to be dark when I get there. So hopefully there's not going to be any other pods truck there, because if so, I'm going to have to wait for him to clear. So that way I can back in there. Hopefully I'll get there early enough. I may even set my alarm earlier than that. Do that backup, because I would love nothing more than to break all the straps on there, have the guy offload me, and have me hit the road. And so that way I could be out of there before 7. And hopefully I could be at the Knoxville location by maybe 9:30 or 10. And then I would pick up 3 green tab empty 16 footers. And then from there, it's only 200 miles to Atlanta. So hopefully I should be able to get there in the next 3 or 4 hours. 3 hours if it was no traffic conditions, but because it's 204 miles, I think. And, but but I'm going to have like 6 hours to do it. So the road conditions are fine. I just got through looking them up before I did this video. Now I said, I gave my hours and stuff like that. And they sent me a message and said, why don't you go home after you drew the drop in Atlanta? And I said, I'll be there Wednesday. And I still have 2 more days while I'm out. And it took them a little while, but they got back to me and said, no, Pods doesn't have a job for you that would get you back by Friday. So you're going to have, so you should go ahead and go to the Atlanta OC. I mean, unless I wanted to turn around and go back on the road, then they'd probably give me something longer. But right now, as of the time of this video, we're looking around America. And in the past few days, temperatures like up in Wyoming have been down to negative 26 degrees. And it's been like a big U across America. Temperatures have been down to like negative 10 across Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Indiana, Ohio, Iowa, all the way down to Nebraska, down as low as like negative 10. So I need to get my heater fixed, because right now it is freezing in this truck. That's the reason why I'm layered up in hats and I'm wearing multiple layers here. I'm about to go to bed. This heater has to be fixed because it's going to be down to 2 degrees here tonight. And I'm going to be going back to the Atlanta OC tomorrow. I'll stop at the maintenance and say, hey, you got the truck for 4 days. I leave on Monday, so technically the rest of that day would make 5 days. Getting there on a Wednesday, provided I can get there on a Wednesday. Hopefully I can, but that's the latest. I'm going to go home and spend a little bit of extra time that was not planned for with my family. And it'll be the first time I have spent 4 days at home since I think the first time I was out. Every other time it's been 2 days. So it's not like me being lazy. It's this week is going to suck for money because basically this is only a job that pays like 600 miles, which is like $300 for 2 days. So by the time I get my paycheck, it's only going to have like $400 on there. It's going to totally suck. Because it would just be this one job, which delayed me a day. You know, because I couldn't do my job today. But, you know, hey, it is what it is, right? Either way, it'd still pay the same for the same miles. And that's one thing that's kind of interesting. The GPS is really annoying because it will tell me the mileage that I'm being paid to go from one location to the other. It will say it's this many miles. But the GPS does not give me the same miles. So that mileage is based on what? The quickest possible route? And the way the GPS routes me, like when it's 100, today it was 250 some odd miles, but I'm paid 240. So it's like 257 miles, I think is what it was. And then leaving that location and going to the next one, I looked it up, and on the thing, it says it pays 124. The GPS puts it at 136. I really wish we got paid the miles the GPS is routing us on, or pay the job based on whatever route you want us to take, and if on that route that it's based on, and then allow us to deviate from it if we want to. It's annoying. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and call it there because I'm going to go to bed. Probably go to bed now, and I will wake up. I'll be sleeping underneath all my covers and stuff like that because the truck will get down really cold tonight. I will leave tomorrow morning and hopefully be able to do the drop-off in Johnson City, the pickup in Knoxville, 9-ish, and hopefully get to Atlanta before they close by 3 and do the drop there. Here's hoping. Thanks for watching.